Let's go. Let's go. Good work. Good work. Let's go. Let's go, Dave. Come on.
What's up, guys? I hope your training has been bloody epic this week. Welcome back to the channel. My name's Dave and I make content around running, shoe reviews, and my life. So a couple of days ago, I competed in a 5-mile race, and that race would be my season opener event. I know what you're thinking, Dave, don't you live in Australia? I do. And 5 miles is a pretty weird distance to be running in Australia, and why didn't they just call it an 8K race? Look, I don't know either. But I found it to be a really, really fun event. It was hosted by the Brisbane Road Runners Club, who did an excellent job. And there was a pretty rapid field of runners that were competing as well, including the Aussie 217 marathoner, Kieran Perkins, who ultimately ended up taking the win. I mean, obviously. So I was locked in and I had my sights set on a PB performance. Being 15 weeks out from Noosa Marathon, the first 4 weeks of my training block were basically putting a big focus into improving my VO2 and my top end speed, and just getting more comfortable at trying to grit through that lactic unpleasantness. So a 5-mile race was going to be a perfect test of speed, mental toughness, and race execution. So the morning started off business as usual. I got up at 3:45 for a 4:30 a.m. departure. I had my double shot coffee, which I had a sachet of chocolate elements that I always put into that. So that's just 1,000 milligrams of sodium in that. I like to double it up with my coffee just so I don't have too much liquids before a race. And with that, I had the classic peanut butter and honey rice crackers. I had 2 or 3 of those, and then I was on my way. So I was originally gonna vlog the whole morning and the race and then after, but once I got there, I ultimately decided to just be really present and not vlog any of it, and just try to knuckle down and give it like a 100% effort. And I didn't want to have the distractions of thinking about content beforehand and all that sort of stuff. So ultimately I decided to not film anything, which, by the way, I'm really happy that I decided to do that. But that's why I'm doing a little video now, just to recap on the race so that I can run you guys through how the race went, and so you can still get a feel for the experience anyway. So for the course, the race was in West End, Brisbane. If you know Brisbane at all, it was down at the one of the boat houses or the boat clubs in West End. And the race actually started at the boat club and then made the way down alongside the Brown Snake, or if you're not from Brizzy, the Brisbane River. And the course was mostly flat with about 3 20-second hills. So mostly flat and pretty quick. So the course was set out as 2 4-kilometer laps. The laps were 2Ks-ish out, and then a hairpin turn, and then about 2Ks-ish back. You go past the finish line, another hairpin turn, and then you're at the finish line. That's 1 lap, and then you do that twice. I mean, the hairpin turns are never fun and they slow the race down, but it sure does make for fun racing. But generally speaking, it was a pretty fun, flat course. So the game plan that Tomo, the guy who ran it with me, and I both came up with is as follows. Sub 28 minutes was the goal time, give or take a couple of seconds, which would bring us home at around a 3:30 per kilometer average pace. We knew it was going to be a strong field, so the plan was to settle into a pack, get nice and comfortable, share the work, and then send it home strong if we're feeling good. So, did we make that goal? Let's find out. So let's get into the good stuff. Let's get into the split breakdown and how the race went. I'm pretty much going to break it up into 2-kilometer segments, being that the race was 8Ks, so we'll talk through it quarterly. So the start of the race was fast as always, fighting pole position and trying to find your pace. There's about a 20-second downhill section shortly after the start, which was actually really nice, and it led down to a nice flat open road. There I found myself into a group of about 6 or 7 guys that were all running around that 3:30 pace, which is exactly what I was looking for. My first 2-kilometer splits were 3:31 and 3:33, So at that stage, I was actually feeling pretty comfortable and feeling pretty good about myself. The next 2 kilometers were spent making my way back to the start line after a hairpin turn. The group that we were in actually started to slow down just naturally once we hit those hills. And so Tomo and I were actually taking turns at just surging a little bit and making the group actually catch up a little bit to us. And that way we actually were able to keep the group floating around that 3:30 goal pace. And from kilometers 3 and 4, I actually found myself feeling even more comfortable now that I'd actually settled into the pace. And we clocked splits of 3:33 and 3:32. So a little bit over pace, but I wasn't worried at this stage. So for kilometers 5 and 6, after passing the finish line, we were heading out on our last out and back lap. And the group had reduced to about 4 or 5 guys, and some of them were really starting to breathe pretty heavy. About 800 meters from the hairpin turn, there's a pretty decent uphill that goes past a soccer field. And I remember thinking, I know Tomo loves to surge up hills. So if I can do my best to just stay on his heels as he surges up them, then I know I'm gonna be in a good spot. Which is exactly what happened. I managed to stick with him, and I'm really thankful that he was there to push the pace up the hills, because he actually kept me in it. I have a tendency to slow my pace a little bit when I get to hills, and it's something that I would like to work on personally. So it was really reassuring having Tomo there, the mountain goat, to surge up those. Then all I had to do was just sit on his heels. So from kilometers 5 to 6, I was actually once again feeling really confident, really comfortable. Well, about as comfy as you can get at 3:30 pace anyway. And I had splits of 3:28 and then 3:29. So we were starting to pick it up. Now for the last 2 kilometers then, Tomo and I were actually starting to break away from the pack. Surging those mini hills, and we were leading the entire time, breaking the wind for everybody. I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't breathing super heavy at this stage. So the way that the course worked, you actually ran past the finish line about 200 meters, and then you had a hairpin turn, it ran 200 meters back to finish the race. So in my head, I told myself, rather than waiting for that last hairpin turn to then 200 meter sprint to the finish, I'm gonna, as soon as I see the finish line, I'm gonna start sprinting. Just hold on, do that hairpin turn, and then all out sprint to the finish from there. And I'm really glad that I did, because I was actually able to catch somebody and pass them on the way to the hairpin, and then I was able to actually catch and pass another person between the hairpin and the finish line. And ultimately I finished in 6th place. Crazy. I really surprised myself on how well I kicked. Like, my final splits were 3:32 and 3:18. Not bad. Giving me a finish time of 27 minutes and 59 seconds. So I just scraped in under the sub 20-minute goal, or 28-minute goal. That was easily the strongest I've ever kicked and the fastest I've ever finished a race. Like, I think my top speed in that final sprint was like 240 pace, which is crazy. Like, that was exhilarating. There's honestly nothing better than like having a really good technical race that you actually negative split. Like, I felt really comfortable all the way up until about 6Ks, and then I really felt like I had the gas left in me to up the pace, which is like obviously a really great sign. And what I'm also cheering about is I finished that race feeling like I probably could have held that same pace for another 2K. So I'm thinking I'm probably a shot for a 35-minute or just under 35-minute 10K, which is a goal that I didn't think that I was gonna be really dancing around for like at least another year. So yeah, I'm just really happy. I'm really happy with how that race went, and I'm so glad that I did it. It was great. How fucking good is racing? How fucking good is running? So what is next? So there is a possibility that I'll be running a 10K in a couple of weeks. I haven't locked it in, but if I do that, if I do that, then the goal for that one will be 35 minutes or just over 35 minutes. But yeah, I haven't completely 100% committed to doing that. Also guys, I raced in the Alpha Fly 3s, and I can confidently say these were something special. I'd never felt like just the energy return, the grip around corners. They did slap a little bit, especially my right foot was slapping. Like people were like talking to me during the race, like, is that your shoes slapping? I'm like, yeah, that's me. There was only one other person who was wearing Alphafly 3s. So I don't know, for some reason I felt like I was a little bit of a try-hard, which doesn't really make sense because this is what they're made for, to race in. And I felt like a little bit of a try-hard, but yeah, I can't really explain it. I felt like a little bit of a try-hard. I don't know. But yeah, these were sensational, guys, like unreal. But yeah, that's it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this little recap of the BRRC 5 mile season opener event. I had so much fun racing. I had so much fun making this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you like it and subscribe to the channel if you're new, just so you don't miss any of my future running content. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.